Right. Well, thanks for attending. Look, I'm really excited to present this topic to you guys. It's something that I do every day, and I don't get a lot of time to share with people. And so every opportunity to do so, I'm super excited for you guys, for hopefully some of the stuff you're going to take away from this presentation. So the official event title was Paid Social versus Social Media Management. So what I want to do just before we actually kick off is just work out who here is currently running any sort of social media advertisements, or for their company or on behalf of people. Yeah. Okay. And is anyone else here sort of thinking about doing that but hasn't started? Right. Okay. Cool. Now. So the aim of this talk really is to give people what I think is a really critical understanding of a pervasive issue, and that in a nutshell, if we're going to kick this off, is that a lot of business owners think that when you talk about social media marketing, you're talking about posting stuff on pages, and that this somehow magically turns into business. At a very granular level, right? And what I want to say is that at the end of this is to show you why that is not the principal way that 90% of companies should be using social media. They are wasting an inordinate amount of time by doing that, and they should rather conceive of these platforms as an opportunity to advertise, and this falls under the umbrella of paid social. And so this is an incredibly detailed topic. I'm going to run through a lot of concepts in this chat. I'm not going to be able to give everything its proper dues, but I'm going to try my best to run through everything in a coherent way and at least provide some knowns to the unknowns. And at the end, I'm going to provide some links to what I consider are really great training resources if you want to look into different things. So yeah, with that said, I think we'll kick things off. The kind of format is that I'm going to do about 45 minutes here and go through all of this. At the end, what I'd like to do is, I've got another microphone here, and anyone that is currently running ads or doing social media advertising or social media marketing who has a specific challenge or wants to actually work through a case study involving their own company that they're looking after, we can do that for about half an hour. About half an hour, another 45 minutes. Because I think if you do that, it kind of just becomes a bit more cogent when you can actually work through a real life example. And so yeah, I do like questions as well. So if you have questions during this, if they really are pressing, please let me know, and I'll try and answer it very quickly and move on. So yeah. So first of all, we're going to be covering what is social media marketing. I think this is something that we need to just quickly establish. Then I'm going to go into the meat of this, which is social media management versus paid social, how those two concepts are different and why you need to understand the difference. Then how to actually run profitable Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn campaigns. Then we're going to look quickly at the differences between B2B and B2C campaigns. So roughly speaking, if you're a company that serves other companies, or if you're a company that serves consumers, how you should be thinking about this, relative to that. And then how to get started on a budget. What are some of the resources you can train yourself with that are gonna help? So, about me. So I'm founder of this agency called Brainbroker. We're a performance marketing agency for SMEs. We help various SMEs of different stripes, B2B and B2C, acquire customers online. And I'd say our biggest department at the moment is social media, so that's why sort of starting these talks with this. If there is one of these channels you want to follow on, the LinkedIn one is definitely number one. I'll be posting any future events that are going to be on similar areas. I think the next one I'm going to do is on LinkedIn bots, so that one's going to be quite interesting. So follow there, and you'll always be made aware. I'm also somewhat of a professional services advocate. I have these other two channels. If you're interested in professional services, follow me on there. that's more of a sort of inspirational channel for people that are thinking of starting companies out of university and things. I'm trying to make the professional services sexy again, rather than, I think a lot of sort of, you know, university graduates have this idea of starting a business needs to be some revolutionary tech idea, and I think that they're missing a trick. So that's what I do on there. And yeah, my email address is there. There's two other people in this room, one called Eric, one called Jonathan, who are standing at the back raising their hands now. If you want any of these materials emailed to you, you can either email us or speak to one of them and they'll sort you out. And I think that is all the boring stuff out of the way. Great. So let's kick into the first bit. What is social media marketing? So the three different pillars, if you like, of social media marketing roughly fall into organic sort of community building, direct messaging, and advertising. So these are the three different things you can really use social media platforms for. The main platforms we know: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, to a sort of lower extent, Snapchat, Pinterest, and Quora. I trust most people probably know what 90% of those are. YouTube is kind of a sort of half social media channel, half kind of search channel at this point. But this is an area that is very, very exciting as well. I could do a whole nother presentation on YouTube. But for now, we're sort of taking it as read that Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram is where we want to focus our efforts as social media marketers. And Twitter to a less extent. But I'm going to be focusing on examples from Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, where 90% of the battles are fought. So let's break those down a bit, just to give you some examples. Pretty non-contentious messaging. So, you know, this is some guy approaching me in LinkedIn. You're basically, it's pretty easy to work out what's going on. He's looking at different founders and who work in agencies, and he's messaging me. You know, he wants me to, I think for videos or something, he wants me to help to buy videos or something off him. So that's pretty easy to understand. I think everyone can relate to cold outreach to potential prospects. Then these two, this being social media management, this being paid social, just two other ways of talking about them. So this is an example of a company called Girlfriend Collective. We're actually working for one of their competitors, but this is a community-centered approach to social media. There is this company actually creates leggings made from recycled plastic that washes up on the shore. And so they've got this amazing connection in Vietnam or something that actually can turn this into leggings that are apparently very, very high quality. And so they are focusing on important social trends like body positivity, female empowerment, sort of general kind of green issues. And what they found is that they can connect with people who are also passionate about these topics and build a community around those topics, and then sort of, you know, interject their product as something that fits in with that helps with those various different issues. And so that's an example of, you know, community building, and they post regularly to that audience. They are constantly interjecting themselves into discussions about those things, but also with their products. At the end of the day, they're trying to sell. So they're building this community to do that. And great for them. And then you've got advertising. And so this is the example of an ad that you might see if you're just on your Facebook feed. An ad might come up. This is a client of ours who's a luxury, eyewear company in Chelsea. And so they're sort of all about style. So, you know, your glasses are a statement of style. Come in and we'll do a consultation with you about how you can make your face look better with glasses. And so this is an example of an ad. So you have a call to action, book now. This is very sort of billboard on Facebook. You're trying to look at pictures of your kids. This comes up and they want you to go and book something. So these are the three different things. Hopefully that should make it clear the three rough pillars. Now there is cross-pollination along these things. There's no reason why you can't do more of them at the same time, all of them at the same time. And in certain cases, you know, you can make this automated at scale, and it looks more like an advertising campaign. So this is just roughly to kind of set the scene here. So this is where I'm going to focus all the time. Is these two. these two over here, community and advertising. So actually, let's have a little check. How many people who said they were working with social media, how many people do this in this audience? How many people, did they or their company or, you know, the salespeople, their business development people, how many do this with social media? Okay, so not that many. How many are doing this at the moment? So trying to build a community. Yeah, okay. And how many are doing that? So advertising. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the differences between those two things. So, social media management is effectively, you're trying to build a community of people around sort of these sort of topics. Typically, there's no paid element. There is the idea of sort of boosting posts. If people don't know, if you just share stuff to, let's say, a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page that you have, very few of your followers actually see any of the stuff you're sharing. About sort of like 3% see the stuff that you're sharing. Unless you're paying to reach your own audience, Facebook won't show it to them because there's too many things in their feed to actually look at. So typically when we talk about pure organic management, you get like community building. There's no real paid element, and if it is, it's kind of just to increase the impact of to existing followers who are already within the circle of influence, rather than extending it with like outside of the circle of influence. Typically, it's more akin to something like SEO. If you guys are familiar with search engine optimization, it takes sometimes many years or many months to see results. You slowly build these communities, you build trust with people, you share really interesting things with them, you write long articles about niche sectors.
You mentioned 3%.
Yeah.
What's that based on?
So that's just typically the number of people who are following a given page. That's the number that will actually see a given post that you post to that page. And the reason for that is, if you went to your Facebook page right now, you might have, let's say you had 1,000 friends, and let's say they all posted on Monday. You're never going to see 1,000 posts when you're scrolling through your LinkedIn feed. People might scroll for maybe 10 and then they'll give up. So Facebook has to rank order which posts are more interested for you, so that you keep on their platform for longer. So they'll pick stuff from your son, they'll pick stuff from your daughter, they'll pick stuff from your family, your wife, the stuff you were researching the other day. Their algorithms are constantly trying to find the best feeds that will interest you to keep you on their platform for as long as possible, mainly so they can run ads to you for as long as possible, which is what advertisers care about. So, you know, let's say you follow the Formula One channel or something like that, if they post something, I mean, if you haven't been back to that page for months, Facebook's taking that as you don't really care about that as much as the other stuff you've been doing on Facebook. So that post is going to be right down, and you'll never really get to it on a daily basis. So you're never going to see it. So what ends up happening is that basically most of your followers never really actually see what you're posting. So you can imagine the frustration for a lot of people that is putting hours and hours into work for blogs or for infographics or God knows what, researching different topical things going on, and nobody's bloody seeing it. So that can be quite frustrating. But so Facebook gives you the option of boosting a post where you can, you know, get your checkbook out and pay them to advertise to your own hard-won followers. So that's the game that Facebook is playing with us. So the KPIs usually around this stuff is just, you know, how many followers do we have, what is the engagement rate with our posts, you know, what percentage of people are seeing it, and when we're looking at our analytics, how much traffic that's coming back to our site each month is coming from social referrals. And then you're sort of saying, great, like, you know, we've got loads of followers, that's awesome. Great, you know, good, well done. So the other side of things is what you call paid social. So this is more like a pay-per-click campaign. So effectively at the end of the day, you're paying Facebook to run ads, and, you know, people are clicking on these ads. So let's say you spend £10 on Facebook, maybe even £6-7 can get you in front of 1,000 people. So you're basically looking for a small percentage of those to click on those ads. Those ads take them to a landing page where they submit an inquiry, they buy a product, they request a callback, they download an ebook, whatever the funnel is. And once they do that, they become a lead or they become a customer, or they add something to a basket. This is the kind of stuff you're tracking with PPC. You're trying to optimize for how low can I get the cost per lead. So just to put this as like an example, because it can sound a bit out there. This is the result of a campaign where we just sent out an ebook. I think it was this one here. I can't remember. So this was just about. Actually, I don't think it was this, but it was an ebook that we were sending out, where people had to submit their phone numbers in order to get the ebook. And so we got 26 people on this lead form. So this is a type of ad called a lead form. It is a type of ad that B2B companies use a lot, where if somebody clicks on learn more there, so this is an ad saying, we'll get you 20% better results on your Google AdWords, or you don't have to pay us. And if they click on learn more, they have to enter these details in to get to basically get to get more details. So 26 people filled that in out of 7,000 people reached. So we spent £500 to do that. So this cost per result here, this is effectively the cost per lead. So it costs £20 if you divide these numbers together, the amount we've spent versus the number of leads we got. That is the cost it took for a lead for this service that we offer, search advertising. So for me, that's great. If I can say that anyone who comes in off this, I can close, 1 out of every 5 to becoming a customer, then that means I've spent £100 to acquire a customer. And if that retainer is going to be several £100s a month for 6 months, that's a great return on investment for the company. So this is all tracked with data. This is all about optimizing for key actions that we want people to take. Now, this is a B2B example. It works the same with e-commerce. So how much did it cost to acquire a customer for buying a product, right? So if I'm selling a kite surfing board, how much did it cost for me to acquire someone to buy a kite surfing board, right? So I might run loads of ads and a certain percentage click onto my page, but let's say 90% of them don't buy the kite surfing board because they continue living their lives. A certain percentage that do, you can add up how much I've spent in total advertising to everyone and how many of them bought a kite surfing board. You can work out my cost per acquisition, what it cost me. And so this is what you're doing with these kind of campaigns. You're looking at very, very business critical metrics like the cost of acquiring a customer, the cost of a lead. It's not, in the air stuff. It's not how many, random metrics have I managed to improve. It's how many customers did I get? How much did it cost to get those customers? So, look, it may sound like I'm knocking community management, and I will get to why there are cases when you do want to definitely use it. But you've got to ask yourself, for your specific type of company, what matters more? Is it followers or leads? Is it community or sales? So what is it that actually drives the company forward? Is it leads for new business? Is it more sales? Or is it just the concept of having lots of people interested in your stuff? What is it that you actually care about? And at the end of the day, you'll probably find that it's growing the business, not having these random metrics that are going up. And given the time that it takes to do the one versus the other, it starts kind of adding up in your head. And so, this is the cases when you would use it. So if you're a B2B company, you definitely don't want to be sort of doing the community social media management angle. And the reason for that is, if you run an accountancy firm, you are never going to build a cult following around your accountancy firm. You're never going to find shared social values unless you're a huge company, and eventually you can build some of this stuff in. You're just not going to create that kind of cultural capital. Whereas something like the leggings studio, they're tapping into things that they can build a community around. So there it would make sense. If you're a niche company, like you're very, very, let's say we're talking to people at the moment that have some kind of They've pioneered this operation where you can take fat out of your stomach, inject it into your knees and cure yourself of knee pain, something like that. That's a specific technique called a lipogem, and this guy's an expert in it. If he wants to blog about that and build a community with sort of doctors around that, they will start referring work to him. There's a case there where if he has enough time, yes, he could try and build a community around that. He could try and create a LinkedIn group, add doctors to it, etc., etc. But for the majority of small SMEs who are not in a particularly niche area, who don't have time all day to create very, very unique content, you should be avoiding the community management side of things. So, B2C, it's a bit, you definitely, if you're a B2C company with a large budget, or some really, really unique and relevant content that nobody else on the internet is able to replicate, then go for it. I mean, you just got to ask yourself, the last time you, let's say, used a lawyer, they send you a proposal, you speak to the lawyers, they sound like they know what they're doing, they've got 15 branches across the UK. When was the last time you said, but hang on, maybe I should check their Facebook page and see if they're sharing great content before I go ahead with this proposal? It just doesn't happen. People are just not interested in that. They're convinced at the ad level, they're convinced at what you can offer. It's just a different way of conceiving things. And I would say that most business owners are doing community management, whereas they shouldn't really be doing it, or at least they shouldn't be spending that much time on it. Another sort of general caveat you could add to this is nobody likes to see a ghost town. So of course, we would have our channels having some content once a month, a couple times a month. Just on the odd case, there's 1 out of 1,000 people that convinces. But realistically, what we're going to be doing is spending money advertising to people we know are our target customers and put them in a funnel to get their email addresses, to send them on a cycle, and nurture them to become a client. We're not going to, try and get them to a cult following around our agency. There's too many agencies sharing too much rubbish on the internet. Nobody has time for it. So that's just being straight, So it may seem like I came down hard on social media management, and I hope I have kept enough caveats in there for you to see that there is a use case for it. But I think people just need to be a lot harder with themselves especially if they're feeling like they're spending a lot of time on social media and not getting results. Chances are it's probably because of some of these issues we're talking about here. So let's say we decide, right, we like this idea of paid social. Like how should we run a paid social campaign? What does it take to make one of those effective? Obviously, this could be another 20-hour lecture on how to do this properly, but I said I was going to link resources. It's going to be about this, and I can give like a kind of recap right now, just to give you a kind of overview of it, which I think is going to help here. So the 4 elements to success of any paid social campaign is 1, the audience. I'm sure if I sat down with anyone here, they could explain to me exactly who they think their business audience is. Oh, it's CEOs who are in these size companies, in these locations, in these industries, or it's women aged 20 to 50 who are interested in cats and photography, or we could sit down and we could have a talk about the different audiences that you think are interested in your products or services. The question is translating that into Facebook or LinkedIn's method of targeting. So that's the first thing. If you can dial that targeting in properly and you can identify your audience within these platforms, then you're away. We're going to talk about other ways just now. But so first is getting that audience right. The second bit is the ad creative. Once you've found these audiences, which ads are you serving to them? And how good are those ads at getting them to take an action? Click here, buy now, shop now. Is your imagery striking enough? Does it talk to that audience? Is the thing you're offering of value to them? Can you give them something to get an email address out of them first, and then send them more ads later? Again, we'll cover this just now, but so audience, ad creative, then your landing page. What typically happens is you find your audience, you send them an ad, they click on it, and they go to a page where they have to enter some details, or they have to buy the product, they have to check out, etc., etc. And then how good are you at retargeting those customers who don't buy for whatever reason, which will be 99% of them? How good are you at working out which ones you should be following around the internet and bringing them back to that page because they showed some sort of buying intent? So these are the 4 elements that once you've completely optimized these 4 stages, you're going to have the best return on investment you can get on the internet is through social media. But it takes a while. It's not an overnight thing, but you can 100% do that. So again, with all of these things, you do one at a time. So there's no good trying different audiences on Facebook at the same time as playing with different advertising creatives. You need to keep everything the same and just toggle the one. So let's say you just create your first ad, create the first landing page, and the audience, you pick loads of different audiences, and then you send those same ads to all of those audiences. You wait for the data to come back and tell you which audience actually bought, which audience actually dropped an inquiry, and that's the audience you stick to. Now you know your audience, you can start playing with the different ad creatives and see how do we get that even more out of that audience by toggling the creatives that they see. So that's the kind of overarching bit. So if we take each of those elements just a little bit more into detail, and I realize this is like where a lot of people start nodding off, but it's really important, and I can obviously share these slides so you can go back in when you're fresh in the morning with a coffee or something. But finding the right audience, there's 2 ways of finding an audience on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. One is you use their targeting metrics. So if you want to put an ad in Facebook, you can say create ad in the ads manager, and it will say, who do you want to see this ad? And you can put age, interests, all of that, demographics, you can put that into Facebook. So as I was saying, let's take the example of, let's say we have a product that's a dog grooming product. So for people that are really obsessed with grooming their dogs. There's different ways you can find people on Facebook who are interested in grooming dogs. They could have been to Crufts. They could like another e-commerce site that sells grooming products. They could have the interest of dogs on Facebook. They could own a dog. Facebook keeps a scary amount of data on our interests and our behaviors and what we like and what we share on Facebook, and it can tell what you're interested in. And there's different ways you can cut that pie within Facebook. So you don't want to just pin your hopes to one audience. You want to start with many different types of audiences that you believe represent who you want to go after. And you let the data from the campaign, when you run the same ad to all of them, go into the same product page, run all of that and see what you get the best reaction from. Then cut the rest. And then maybe you play again a second time round and you further subdivide that audience. And once you've done that a few times, you can dial in the audience that really, really cares about your product. So that's the way you can use their primary targeting. But ideally, you move away from that as soon as possible. And you do that by using something called custom audiences. So if we take the example of like a law firm, let's say they've been around for 50 years, they have 30,000 email addresses of clients, or past clients or prospective clients, and they have their email addresses sitting in a CRM. You can export all of those email addresses and you can upload them into Facebook. And you can tell Facebook, find me all those people. And Facebook will match their email address to their Facebook account. And that's called a custom audience. It won't find all of them, because most people don't sign up to Facebook with their business email address or haven't linked it. But you can find, a good 20%. So let's say that guy has 50,000 email addresses. We get like 10,000 email addresses out of it. And so Facebook says, cool, I found 10,000 people from your list on Facebook. It's all anonymized. You won't be able to see who they are. They won't let you do that for privacy reasons. But they'll say, I've got an audience here with 10,000 people that you want me to find. You can then ask Facebook to create a lookalike audience, which basically says, Facebook, these are my customers. Find me another 100,000 people that look exactly like these 10,000 people. I don't care about your primary targeting. I don't care about the demographic stuff. I'm telling you who are my customers. Find me other people that look like them. And then, if you have a sufficient amount of people, like 6,000, 7,000 plus in the list, you can actually use this very, very effectively to find other people that look exactly like them on Facebook to a very high degree of accuracy. And And so that's great because you're actually telling Facebook, these are my customers, I just want more of them. So you're circumventing the whole primary targeting like completely. As well, you can do it from website audiences. So there's something called the Facebook Pixel, which is a bit of code that Facebook provides for free that you can install on the back end of your website. And you can track everyone who comes to your website. And Facebook will say, right, this user who's looking at your website, I know his Facebook page, I know her Facebook page, I know who they are. And you can store that information in your Facebook Pixel, and later you can decide to run ads to them. So you can tell Facebook, I want you to run ads to an audience which is made up of people who have visited my website. And this is all done through something called the Facebook Pixel. The benefit of that is that people that have seen your website are something like 4 to 8 times more likely to convert into a customer. So every pound you spend on a retargeting campaign is something like 4 to 8 times more cost effective than a primary campaign. So, you might have to start with primary targeting. You're pushing people to your site, you're seeing the people that are interested, that are clicking around, you're storing their details. Eventually your retargeting audience grows and grows and grows, and your campaigns become more and more and more profitable because you've got this much higher value audience that you're now advertising to. So you're trying to move away from this primary targeting towards more custom audiences, and this is how you can really dial in a great audience. But you can do it without any custom stuff. You can do it, of course. It just takes longer. So if you have these assets already, consider custom audiences from the get-go. And if you haven't installed the Facebook Pixel on your website, definitely do that, because even if you're not going to run ads right now, you may as well keep a track of all these people's Facebook accounts, because there may come a time in 6 months when you do want to advertise to them. Sorry, that's the main one out of the way. Getting the right ads. So once you have this audience really dialed back, so we're going to send one random ad or ad that we think is just the most vanilla, speak to a digital agency today, to all of these people, and you see which audiences work. Cool, we know that we have the best audience that is reacting the best to our ad. Now let's start testing different ads to that audience. So you can test, do we send the ads to them on Facebook's feed? Do we send it to them on Instagram's feed? Do we send it to them on the side of the Facebook page? Do we send it to them in Facebook Messenger? Facebook allows you to control the placement of ads, and these will have different prices and different effectiveness. So you can then obviously split test the imagery, the copy. Are you going to ask someone to download an ebook? Are you going to ask someone to book a call? Are you going to ask someone to buy this now? Is it 20% off? Is it 30% off this month? Is it 2 for 1 in January? What is the right copy and the right imagery that works? And we've seen things like changing a background image improve the number of leads a client can get by like 80%, just by changing the background of an image. The copy is the same, everything else is the same. So like audiences, you want to set up a whole series of ads to that one audience and see with the data which are the ads that are getting the most clicks, which are the ads that are getting the most conversions, and then scrap the rest. So now you're in a position where you've dialed in the audience and you've dialed in the messaging and the imagery that they want to see. So you then want to optimize what they're doing on your website. So you've sent them an ad, great, you've got them to your website now. They're obviously going to be asked to buy something or to inquire, for a product or a service. So you want to optimize that page. What should that page look like? Should you gamify the forms? Should you only ask for an email first and then hit them with an email campaign afterwards? Should you have should you have that at all? Should you have a video on that page explaining to them what the service is? These are all great questions, and you can play with that page in the same way that you played with the ads to squeeze as much juice out of that audience hitting that page. And you can analyze where people are dropping off, where people are losing interest, using Google Analytics and heat map video analysis. There's a tool called Hotjar, which many people might know, that will show you what people are doing on a page, where they're dropping off and stuff. So you can actually check, where are people dropping off in this whole funnel, and fix it. And so that is going to improve massively the use to you of that traffic coming to your page. We're dealing with small percentages here. The number of people clicking on the ad might be 0.8% of people that see the ad. The people that are actually dropping an inquiry or buying a product might be 2%, 3%. But these small adjustments add tiny bits of percentages, and when you actually look at the numbers at the end, they can have huge effects, like going from 0.8% click on an ad to 1.6 is a 100% improvement. So it might sound like small numbers, but that's where you win these campaigns. It's just by improving each stage of the journey. So that goes for the last thing, which is retargeting. I've already talked about it. It's super powerful. You can basically retarget. That's Facebook. You can do it with LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn has the equivalent called LinkedIn Insight Tag, and you can install that in the back end of your website and retarget LinkedIn visitors. And so you can retarget people on email. So retargeting is also, remarketing is also done on email. So if you manage to capture someone's email address to create an account before they buy something, or as the first stage of them sending you an inquiry, they give you their email address, and then they bugger off for the rest of it. You've still got their email address. You should be following up with emails regularly. So the retargeting infrastructure you use is specific to the rest of the campaign that you set up. But if you do that properly, you're going to bring people back who look like they were just on the verge of buying. You bring them back into the fold as time goes on. And that's going to ramp up over time and become actually the main way you generate leads, is actually through that retargeting. So this is an example of just like a funnel, like a simple funnel we did for this. This is one of our clients. They sell high quality Russian cakes. Really good, by the way. If you ever come across that at a cafe, it's super good. So basically, people coming in through Facebook, they click on this ad. Let's say like shop now. They go to a sales page. We've got the Facebook pixel. We've got Google Tag Manager tracking them. Don't worry about LinkedIn. That shouldn't be there. But effectively, they're coming through to a page that says buy a cake. And if they buy the cake, great. A small percentage of people will do that. Most people won't buy a cake. Some people might, let's say, add it to the cart and then just realize, actually, do I really want to buy a rosé and lychee cake right now? I don't think I do. And they'll continue living their lives. So you know that they've added this to a cart. And so you can tell in the back end of your website, hang on, this Facebook person, this Facebook page, or this LinkedIn page added something to a cart. Let me send them a further ad telling them for a limited time only there's 10% off this specific cake. So you can follow people around the internet, whether it's on popular websites that they're visiting, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on LinkedIn, you can follow them around the internet and bring them back to complete their transaction, complete their form submission, whatever it is we're trying to get them to do. So that's basically just like a super simple funnel for a B2C client. With you'll see as we kind of just qualify it here with B2B and B2C. With B2B, you want to be a little bit more strategic. So that's the last section here of note really that I'm going to cover, and that is B2B versus B2C. So with all of this paid social stuff, so we now know what we need to do. We need to get the right audience, the right ads, the right landing page, set up this retargeting infrastructure. What do we need to do if it's a B2B company that's specific to B2B? So you can, within things like Facebook and LinkedIn, you can optimize Facebook to show your ads in front of people who are likely to click on those ads and go to a landing page, and actually they'll watch the landing page. So Facebook has tons of data, guys. I mean, it knows if you tell Facebook, I want to optimize for link clicks or for landing page views, it will optimize to get your ads in front of people that are much more likely than others to read a landing page. So first of all, you need to do that, because that's really important when you're trying to sell a B2B service or product. You can utilize these things called lead form campaigns, lead form ads, and that was like the one I was showing earlier, where when you click on a button, this drops down. So like an actual form drops down within Facebook or LinkedIn. So you don't have to send anyone to a website. You can get their email address and phone number directly from the platforms, which saves the click, which saves them going to the landing page. Super easy for them to do. And Facebook and LinkedIn actually pre-populate these fields for them. So they don't even have to type them in. It's just like, oh, I want this ebook, click. Oh, okay, there's all my details, okay, click. And then you've got their phone number. You can call them and say, how did you find that ebook? Do you want to meet up for coffee? If it's a B2B thing, you can do that sort of thing. If you have a high ticket item, so a consultative company that consults, or like, you know, your fees are typically hundreds of thousands, but it takes ages to, you know, your sales cycle is very long. It's not just a question of, hey, click this thing and, you know, let's meet up for coffee. You want a lot more touch points. So you would actually create content like blogs or something super interesting that you know they would find the value, and you send out like advertorials to them. And what you're doing is you're finding the people that are regularly engaging with your advertorials. You're then sending a lead form. So you butter people up first, basically. You have more touch points. You have things like content downloads, stuff that you're giving them a value to build up that trust. And then you're able to track the people that are regularly engaging, and those people you're then sending a lead form. Because at that point, they're kind of ready. And that lead form might not be for, you know, call me. It'll be for something like, okay, you've read all this other stuff. How about now you download our compendium of, you know, latest research that is the #1 bit of research in our sector, and they're kind of convinced already because they've got some value out of your last stuff. They're more willing to put these details in to get that what we call hero content, like that content. They'll put their details in. Then you can call them or do whatever you need. So the kind of call to actions you get would be like book a meeting, submit an inquiry, download an ebook, download a brochure, attend an event. You know, these are the kind of things that you want as a B2B company as the first thing you want someone to do. Yeah, you know, the higher ticket, obviously, you're going to be spending a lot of time retargeting to people because they're not going to buy off one thing. They're researching. It's a high ticket service. You know, it's a huge engagement for their company. You're going to have to just keep front of mind, follow them around the internet. When they're ready, they'll come back. Or when you do an outreach to them, they'll already be very well aware of who you are and your USPs because you'll have been showing it to them ad nauseum for months. So B2C campaigns, different. You want to optimize, if you're a store, you want to optimize for store visits, which you can do within Facebook and Instagram. If you're an e-commerce site, you can optimize for purchases. You want to be doing a lot more sort of seasonal giveaways, discounts. You can't really do voucher codes that much anymore, but you can do giveaways, discounts, 2-for-1s, play with those sort of things to get people's attention. If you're a high ticket product, like a cost thousands, like a car or whatever, you definitely want to be, you want to optimize for add to basket. You want to train your pixel so that you can then retarget people. It's kind of like with B2B or with a high ticket B2B. You're just going to be spending a lot more of your time retargeting to people. That's where the magic is going to happen. And then obviously with this, if you're a e-commerce website, you're going to have to invest big time in your checkout journey. So you're going to have to put as much of your development budget as you can into getting that checkout journey right, because you really want to be squeezing as much conversion as you can out of that, and that's really like most drop-offs happen there. So you can have the best ad, but if it's a pain to check out or it looks dodgy in any way, people are going to give up. So then the kind of things you're going to be call to actions are like add to cart, order now, purchase now, visit us, get directions. That's the kind of thing. Right. So then just like how to get started. Yeah. So I mean, what? Yeah. Sorry.
You haven't said anything about Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to?
No, probably not in this event, but I'm more focused here on LinkedIn, Facebook, and.
Well, can you speak to the value of Twitter in terms of generating leads for
B2B
companies?
So it's tough. I mean, Twitter itself is something that you want to interject into different conversations. So if you are going after various different sort of hashtags to do with your industry or topical things within your industry, it's a way of like getting in front of being the person talking about that at that time. The question is are your customers also interested in those same things in a degree that they will be impressed by what you're saying? And so it's one that, to be honest, we don't play around with much at all. So Twitter is not one that we typically focus on for B2B, unless it's like a kind of add-on if someone is in a very niche sector. then they may as well dominate the conversation on Twitter as well with all of their content. But yeah, we tend not to focus on Twitter as much. So in terms of, if you're looking at LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, and you want to get started, Facebook provides training. It's called Facebook Blueprint. I would go through all of that. Just go through all of that basically before you even turn up to Facebook. The one caveat, the one thing I just want to warn everyone is the way these guys make money, Facebook and that, is they make it easy to run ads, hard to succeed. That's their entire business model. They want you to think you can just turn up and run some random ads and get results and pump loads of money into there. So it's very easy to play, it's hard to win, basically with Facebook. So definitely do upskill a lot on this. It amazes me sometimes that like SMEs will agree that they can't do something like find an office or do their taxes or do their own legal documents, more or less, for complicated things. But with social media, they think they can just kind of turn up and put a few posts or boost a couple things, and that's somehow going to magically turn into results. This Facebook Blueprint, go through all of that. It's a great foundation, and then use YouTube to find specific tactics for your specific industry. You can literally put in real estate, how to use Facebook to get real estate leads. How do you do that on YouTube? People have made a video on every single sub niche, but you need to have the background understanding before you start looking at that. Otherwise, things will get lost in translation. This guy called Fred Lamb, he has a course out. I can actually give people the link. I should put it there, but I can send people the link to his training. Just email me. It's on the last page or whatever. But just email me there. I can give you the link to that. That's the best training we found if you're kind of a bit short on time and you consider yourself intermediate with Facebook. His modules are like video based, and it's the best we found at training people. So definitely use that. When I say Facebook, that covers Instagram as well. Just by the way, because Instagram is owned by Facebook, so it's all part of the same thing. And then for LinkedIn, Linda owns LinkedIn, and it's no surprise they have fantastic resources on how to use LinkedIn on Linda. So yeah, just type in Linda. You can actually access it through LinkedIn a lot of the time, and you'll see something saying LinkedIn developers learning LinkedIn. If you go through any of their modules on that, getting started, I think they have like a whole series on that. That's definitely one to do if you're interested in LinkedIn. And then like I said, YouTube, you can get access to a lot of great trainers and great people through YouTube, but I definitely recommend doing the foundational stuff first. Then if people are introducing concepts, it'll be easy to work out if they're talking crap or if it kind of fits in. So that's what I'd say on the training side. Happy to give anyone any further direction. If you just pop me an email, I can give you any other stuff. Yeah.
Do you have any examples of people to watch on YouTube?
Yeah, I can email you to like a few of my faves afterwards for sure. So that's basically what I was saying there. So this is kind of like, okay, this is a B2B example. This is the sort of typical results you might expect. I don't know if you can actually see back there what any of these numbers are saying, but imagine you had a budget of like £2,500 and you wanted to run ads on LinkedIn, let's say, or Facebook. You get this number of impressions. That's the total number of times your ad is seen. You then have a click-through rate, which is the number of times somebody clicks on one of those ads. So if you said buy now or get an inquiry, the number of times people click on it in the beginning might be very low because you're obviously doing all this optimizing, you're trying to test different audiences, etc. Then the average number of people that end up converting on your page into a customer or into a lead is, that's quite low. It's about 2% to begin with, something like that. So then you have the total number of conversions here would be 13 people became a customer, dropped a lead or whatever. So you now know your cost per conversion is the total budget divided by the number of conversions. That is your cost per conversion. And this will improve over time. So, if you're selling accountancy services, maybe £50 a lead is really good for you. Maybe £44 is a really good amount for you, because out of 10 potential leads, maybe you close 2 of them. So, you know, you're spending £500 to get 2 clients. Maybe they pay you enough for that to be a really great deal. So you need to work that number out in your head first. What is a good deal for me? What am I prepared to pay for a lead, given my close rate, given the lifetime value of a customer? What am I prepared to pay? And then you're trying to optimize to get to that number, and you're squeezing as much juice as you can from all of those different you know, parts of the journey. So yeah, so that's actually a kind of wrap up of my talk here. So, you know, I think I've tried to be slightly ambitious in covering a lot of ground quickly, but, you know, I hope that it's given people at least a qualitative appreciation of what something like paid social is and how different that is to something like just social media management. And, you know, if anyone was thinking more along the other way, I definitely encourage you to see these channels as digital billboards you can advertise on, and to learn more about it, and to, you know, follow the info. I reckon in 6 months minimum, but 6 months max, if you just do a couple hours a day on those different bits that I showed you, you'll be a pretty hot Facebook marketer. And especially if you're learning from others on YouTube who have literally grown the exact type of company that you have, with the background understanding, you'll be able to do it. Yeah, there you go. So if you want to get in touch with me, it's larry@brainbroker.net. I'm happy to send over the slides to this and any more like info you want on other training material. I can definitely provide that as well.